is Talk 1470.
Talk 1470.
WNN.
The opinions expressed on the following sponsored program are strictly those of the host, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors. Welcome to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida attorney Joseph Brien. Listen for the next hour as attorney Joseph Brien informs you on different legal topics. Whether you are considering bankruptcy or dealing with mortgage or debt issues, Joe can help you. Knowledge is power. Don't fear the unknown. Get answers to your burning legal questions now. So call in and ask attorney Joseph Brien to answer your questions. 888-565-1470. And now, here's attorney Joseph Brien.
Hey, good evening and welcome to People's Advocate Hour. My name is attorney Joseph Brien. I've been practicing down here in South Florida for quite a few years. I hate to say it, 22 years at this time. I'm enjoying what I do. Right now, the focus of my practice is helping people that are in difficult financial situations. So therefore, I do bankruptcy. I myself don't file them. I actually file the bankruptcies. I also help people dealing with their debt when they can't file for bankruptcy. In addition, I also do foreclosure defense and help people trying to keep their homes and work through the process. And I guess the first thing we're going to talk about today is going to be about foreclosure defense. And quite candidly, if you do nothing, they foreclose. And in the current marketplace of today, a foreclosure can go through in about 6 months. From the day they file to the day they get a sale date. If you sit back and do nothing, they can literally chase you out of your home in less than 6 months. It's unfortunate. A lot of people found themselves buying properties for a very expensive price in 2006, 2007, 2008, and then they found all that money that they put down and substantial part of the debt lost equity. What does that mean? Well, that means that the property is worth less than they owe on it. Now, in some cases, I feel very badly for the person because, hey, they made an intelligent decision to buy the one big product that they're going to ever buy in their adulthood. They put a lot of money down so that they'd make their payment manageable. And then the market went down or went south, and they lost a substantial amount of their investment in the property. In some cases, like they say, they're upside down in the property. Over the last few years, I've witnessed a lot of people get loan modifications. Some people try to stay in their houses as long as possible to try to recoup some of their investment. And ultimately, in most of the cases, we've had great success. Some banks have worked hard to fight us and prevent us from getting success. I like to see the people go ahead and get short sales. The nice thing about short sales is it mitigates the damage. It reduces the damage to your credit report. It allows you to overcome the foreclosure faster because when the person gets a foreclosure judgment and they sell the property, it's a big black remark on your credit report, and can stop you from getting a traditional loan for at least 2 years and make other things more difficult for you in the future because your credit usually goes down anywhere from 150 when you don't have much credit to as much as 300 when you have good credit. And the other reason why one would want to consider a short sale is because it shows up as paying off a debt for less than is owed, which is a far less negative remark on your credit report, and it allows you to move ahead quickly in rebuilding your credit as long as you have other debts that you owe. Unfortunately, I find a lot of people who come to me with foreclosure often are in a financial quandary, and it's not just the property, the foreclosure that they're dealing with, but they're also dealing with a substantial amount of credit that they can't afford. In some cases, I'm seeing large amounts of hospital bills, and from time to time, I see a lot of people who come in and they have a big tax exposure with the IRS. And that's something we're going to talk about today and a little later on in the report. We're going to talk about taxes and how you can get rid of them in bankruptcy, and we'll also talk about how we can handle taxes when bankruptcy is not an option, because bankruptcy is not always the best option. When you're dealing with a foreclosure, you can do nothing and be out of there very quick. You can pay off the loan or refinance the loan if that's available to you. There are some government programs where you can actually go back, depending on whether you fit into the box, you can actually go ahead and have the government pay for a refinancing of your loan. The other choice is to come up with a big chunk of change and pay off all the monies that you should have paid the bank during the foreclosure and reinstate the loan. And sometimes that's just not an attractive thing because it may involve taxes. It may involve paying for forced insurance. How many of you out there have had forced insurance put on you by the bank? A typical citizen's insurance policy can be anywhere between $2,000 and $5,000. And whatever you're paying at a reasonable market rate, you'll end up finding yourself with these insurances that have next to no good coverage for the owner. And you'll find that they will ultimately be charging you 2 to 4 times the market value of decent insurance that gives you real coverage, because the bank's only interested in forced coverage to cover their loan. They're not interested in your personal property on the property, and they generally it's generally not very good coverage. So that's always a problem when you're doing the reinstatement, because you also have to pay for any of the fees that they've paid for you. The other choice, of course, is you can go back and do a loan modification. A loan modification can be done at any time. It can be done before a foreclosure is filed. It can be done after a foreclosure is filed. It can be done because your circumstances have changed and there's a possibility that you are making enough money that they may be able to modify your loan so that you're able to make the payments. And what they're looking is they're looking at 30% of your disposable income is available to make a payment, and that you're not paying too much of your disposable income to make the payment, and that they can structure a deal that makes sense. And I've seen some really attractive modifications over the last few years. I have to tell you, when I first started doing modifications on behalf of clients in foreclosure, there was all this talk and all this advertisement and all these promises being made of what could be done in loan modification, and none of it was happening. It was really frustrating. The banks weren't processing them on any timely basis. I had loan modifications that were in process. I have one right now. It's been processed now going on 3.5 years. And it's hysterical, some of the things that these processors can't come to terms with. But once again, you continue the loan process because you want to get the loan modification. Some of the things that I've seen have been very attractive. I've seen some large loans where they've dropped a couple $100,000, and in one case $300,000 was deferred principal. What that means is that they weren't charging you interest on the principal, and then they were charging you interest on the balance of the principal that wasn't deferred. And in some cases they wipe out the deferred principal, and in other cases you don't pay the deferred principal until some 30 years later when the loan comes due. In some cases I've seen loan modifications coming out that were crazy, but in most cases I'm seeing loan modifications when the numbers come out, the answer is generally the principal interest plus escrows is less than the average rental payment for the same neighborhood. So it's worth looking at it. Now, if you're first just getting into a short-term problem, you can consider a forbearance on your loan. And sometimes you can go out and get a second loan if there's equity in the property. My least appreciated consideration is doing a deed in lieu in foreclosure, because ultimately it doesn't have a positive effect upon your credit rating, and you're basically just folding your cards and saying, okay, take the property, I'm out of here. Sometimes deed in lieus do mean cash for keys, but I'm not seeing that in hundreds and cases. I'm seeing that in a few cases. And of course your last option is to file for bankruptcy. I'm here for you. And bankruptcy, in some situations you're going to go through liquidation, which is Chapter 7, and in other cases you might consider a Chapter 13, where you have income too much for you to consider Chapter 7, or Chapter 7 doesn't give you certain rights that you want, and you can always convert from a 13 to a 7 if that works out for you. And my favorite is the short sale. And the reason why I like the short sale, because it keeps you out of bankruptcy and it reduces the damages to you in the long term. And generally in a short sale, they will waive the deficiency. Now here's something that you need to be aware though. The deficiency waiver results in a 1099 forgiveness of debt, which means that you can be exposed to taxes. Ooh, taxes you can't walk away from. In most cases, you can't bankrupt. But we're going to talk about that in just a moment. But the nice thing about it is that if you get a 1099, you're supposed to be able to waive the payment of the capital gains on the 1099 when it's homestead. But that law was only in effect until December 31st, 2013. So the taxes you paid in April, if you had a 1099 issued to you for your homestead property, you were able to waive it and not pay the capital gains. It's my expectation that our congressmen are going to, and congresswomen are going to go ahead and extend that law, but they don't need to extend that law till the last quarter of this year, because once again, you will not be filing taxes related to that 1099 that may come in this year until April 15th, 2015. But right now, taxes are a big issue. And we're going to talk about that in just a few moments. Okay. Next topic on this is, oh yes, we talked last week and I wanted to go into more detail again this week. Along with a lot of the changes that are going out there, the U.S. government came up with some new regulations under Regulation X. And under the circumstances of Regulation X, when I first started practicing foreclosure law in a big way, I was very upset with the banks because they were taking forever to do a loan modification. They didn't know how to handle short sales, but they would continue in the foreclosure process. And I just felt that was unequitable. It wasn't fair dealings. It wasn't the right way to work with the community that was distressed by their games that they played in the investment market when they did all that shenanigans up in New York and did all these type of pieces of paper that were valueless and destroyed our economy. I felt that they had an obligation to the people of the United States to try to do the workouts and not take the foreclosures forward because it was their fault. It was their fault. But they still went running towards the marketplace and going forward with the foreclosures while they were looking at the modifications. Well, as of January, Regulation X makes dual track illegal. And what's happening with that is very interesting. And if you want to call in to talk about it, we can talk about it. If you want to call in to 888-565-1470, or you can go to wwnn1470.com and watch us live stream. Also, we're available on Twitter, and you can also send us some stuff through Facebook. Once again, if you want to find out more about the services that we're offering, you can always go to our webpage, thepeoplesadvocate.com, at 954-320-6940. So now, let's go back to the issue of Regulation X. No dual track. That means that if they want to go forward with the foreclosure, they have to finish the loss mitigation first. Loss mitigation can be a loan modification, it can be a short sale, it can be a deed in lieu, it can be many of the other things that are internal loss mitigation programs within the bank. Now, what's interesting about this is that I've been in case on many of these things recently. And in most cases, say a trial's coming up or a motion for summary judgment where they're trying to get a final judgment against you and a foreclosure's coming up, most judges will advise the opposing counsel who represents the bank to continue it. However, there's a few wonderful judges out there that are saying, well, you know, I understand, plaintiff bank, that you are regulated by the federal government and you are not allowed to go and proceed on this case because you have not finished the loss mitigation process. However, I am a judge and I am governed by Florida law, and you will either have to go to trial or finish off the motion for summary judgment, or you'll have to dismiss the case. And I understand that if you go forward that you will violate the federal law that you are governed by and break the law. Or you can dismiss the case and we won't go any further. So I've had a couple cases where loan modification packages are complete and have been filed, and the judges have forced the banks to dismiss the case. Now, from my standpoint of view, that's wonderful for my client because I know the bank is going to be very motivated to modify the loan versus to bring the lawsuit back from scratch. Okay? So it's wonderful, and it's a wonderful thing that's happened. And I think that a lot of people out there are going to find some benefits happening to them, especially those that are going to get cases dismissed, because the banks don't want to violate federal law. That will cause them great damages and fines. So they will be forced to dismiss. On the other hand, what can happen is that banks can start to quickly turn down loss mitigation packages as a way to avoid the dismissal. So that could have a chilling effect on the benefits that I'm talking about today. Once again, if you want to call in and you have any questions, 888-565-1470. You can also watch us on live stream at www.nnn1470.com. Once again, you can call in on Twitter. Let us hear from you.
Are you losing sleep at night due to your debt situation? Call attorney Joseph Brien today to sit down for a free consultation to discuss your rights. The People's Advocate is the trade name of the Brien Law Group. The People's Advocate provides services to individuals and small businesses in bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sales, loan modifications, debt relief, consumer law, and estate planning in the South Florida area. Your initial consultation is free of charge. Proudly serving the South Florida community for over 21 years, Attorney Joseph Brien will listen to your concerns and discuss options available to you. For more information, please call the People's Advocate at 888-828-9008. That's 888-828-9008. You are listening to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida Attorney Joseph Brien. He keeps you informed about your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure and wants you to be part of his show. Call 888-565-1470 and help him help you get informed. Now, back to our show.
Well, thank you for coming back. This is the People's Advocate, and this is our hour to educate the consumer, to educate the people, small businesses. If you have any questions, please give us a call at 888-565-1470, and you can watch us on live stream at WNN1470.com. In addition, you can contact us on Twitter and Facebook to ask further questions if you don't want to call in. We're the People's Advocate Hour. You can contact us at 954-320-6940, or you can look at our website at thepeoplesadvocate.com. And I'm here today with an expert in taxation. Her name is Lauren Smalis, and she's going to talk to us today about how we can get rid of taxes. You like that line, huh? Getting rid of taxes. You owe money, you want to get rid of it?
Who doesn't like that?
I know, Lauren. Everybody likes getting rid of taxes, especially if there's a legitimate way to do it. And in bankruptcy, there's a way. In bankruptcy, we can get rid of taxes. Isn't that correct?
Absolutely. Bankruptcy is just one of the ways that taxpayers can get rid of any tax liabilities that they do end up owing as a result of all of the different things that are going on right now in the economy that you've been talking about for the past 15 minutes or so. As you said, a lot of people are experiencing foreclosures. A lot of people are experiencing issues with personal finance, business finance. A lot of small businesses are really hurting right now. So, when we have situations such as these, people may not realize the income tax consequences, and in addition to the consequences, they may not realize that there is relief out there that they can seek, if they talk to their tax attorney, their tax practitioner. So like Joe said, my name is Lauren Smalis. I am a tax attorney and a tax consultant. I do a lot of tax planning for individuals and small businesses. I've worked with Fortune 500 companies doing tax consulting. And while I'm talking anything with I'm with the People's Advocate. And if you have any questions during this segment, please call in at 565-1470, and at the website WNN1470, and as Joe said, also on Twitter or Facebook. So like I was saying, I'm with the People's Advocate, and we do a lot of tax planning. We work with a lot of individuals and small to medium-sized businesses. So today I'm just going to talk about one of the areas that we see a lot right now. It's really a hot issue. A lot of people are going through the foreclosures and having financial issues. So let me just kind of talk about the tax implications. And I know everyone hears the word tax. Don't change the radio station. I know tax is not always fun, but you need to be educated and you need to understand. And if you just listen to the...
Did you just say sex is not fun?
I think I said tax, but...
Oh, okay. I misunderstood you.
But it does help to be educated, and sometimes if you just know about the issue and you can talk to your tax attorney or tax practitioner, it's not as scary as you think it is. So what a lot of people don't realize is they go through, say a foreclosure. It's devastating to their family. It's very hard, and then once it's done, they think, okay, this is over. I'm free and clear. What a lot of people may not realize is you can have a tax liability as a result of your debt being forgiven or canceled. So say you go through this foreclosure, the lender ends up forgiving your debt, you will actually have a tax liability, potentially, from the forgiveness of this debt. Now, if you want to get into the technicalities, which I know is not the fun part.
I actually like technicalities.
Okay, wonderful. Then let me just throw this out there. It is...
Say they forgave $100,000 of my debt. What would that mean to me?
That would mean, Joe, that you have $100,000 of income reportable on your tax return for that tax year.
Is that regular income or is that like capital gains?
Regular income, which
ouch.
Is ouch. Yes, absolutely.
So I could be exposing myself to how much of a payment? I mean, as much as like $32,000.
That's correct. It depends on your tax bracket, but
how much could it be?
It could be unlimited. I think right now with foreclosures there is a limit, which is about. Am I off base here? I know you're the foreclosure expert.
The question I'm saying though is that the highest tax bracket is what, 38%?
35%.
35%. So you're saying to me that if I get a forgiveness of $100,000, I could owe the IRS $35,000.
$35,000, which is a lot. That can really now
I can bankrupt that, can't I? Can't get rid of it in bankruptcy?
You can. I'm going to get into that. We're going to talk about that as well. Bankruptcy is one of the options.
Okay, and what are the other options that I can consider? Because I hate bankruptcy.
Okay, well,
I like it as an attorney. I make money off of it, but the idea of filing bankruptcy unnecessarily just because I got $35,000 I can't afford to pay today, tomorrow, or next year.
Absolutely. A lot of people are not comfortable with bankruptcy, or it may not fit their facts. There are other options. One of those options is it's known as insolvency, which basically, if I put it as simple as possible, just means that you owe more than you're worth, which, let's face it, if you've already had this financial issue, this is probably you. So if you, as a taxpayer, are insolvent, you end up owing more than you're worth, your liabilities exceed your assets.
Which means I'm not paying every bill every month, huh?
That's right. You're not paying your bills every month. This is actually an exception for the income to be reported on your tax return. You can get this income excluded from your tax return. So this is music to a lot of taxpayers' ears, because this means you do not owe that $35,000 that we just talked about on your tax return, which is wonderful. Absolutely wonderful.
I'm already getting chills out of it.
Yeah, and this is because the federal government, they understand if you're already in this financial situation, you're never going to get out of it. You're going to owe taxes, back taxes. I mean, I don't know who has $35,000 just laying around, but probably not many people. Let's face it.
I don't picture Uncle Sam letting everybody off. I understand that they don't let anybody that's associated with the Patriots. They're naughty people, and the IRS doesn't want to let them out of anything. But what happens if they decide that they're not going to let us go ahead and waive this 1099 because we're insolvent at the time? So I can't pay the bills as they come due, and I'm in bad financial situation. So I make an application saying I'm insolvent, an application of insolvency. They look you over, and then they say, okay, we waive it. Is that right?
That's right, and that's one of the things we do at the People's Advocate. We are able to file the proper forms with your federal income tax return to ensure that everything is done. We cross our T's, dot our I's, and we make sure that you don't owe this tax liability.
Now, if somebody wants to figure out more about this, are they able to come to you for free consultation?
Absolutely, absolutely. We are available at 954-320-6940 is our office line. We're also available on thepeoplesadvocate.com. And again, if anyone has any questions right now, please don't be shy. Go ahead and call in 888-565-1470. We'll answer any questions that you may have as you're beginning your commute home today.
So when they come and they talk to you about their deepest, darkest secrets, like their tax liabilities, is anybody else going to know about it?
Absolutely not. People have to know there's always attorney-client confidentiality. Everything that you say is between us. And we will be your attorney. We will help you out, and we'll work you through this scary situation, dealing with tax.
Tax, it's a scary word. Now, okay, so they tell me, no, we don't think that you're insolvent enough, that you're not in enough pain. What other choices do we have?
Another choice that a lot of taxpayers might benefit from is a federal regulation, the Mortgage Forgiveness Debt Act of 2007. Now, this is applicable to any debt that was forgiven in between January 1st, 2007 and January 1st, 2013. At this point, this law has not been extended, but we think that it most likely will be. If you think that this law might be applicable to you, which, for instance, if this is your primary residence, which is a number of individuals who are going through foreclosure, if you think this is applicable, we definitely can and kind of consult you through it and explain to you the rules and regulations. There is a lot that goes into it, but
call your congressman and your senator and tell them to extend it.
That's right. That's right.
Because they're the only ones that can help you as of now, because if they don't extend it, anytime that you have a forgiveness of debt this year will be reported to your taxes next year, and then you will have to pay those, oh my God, if you're in the highest bracket, 38% of whatever they forgive you have to pay. Man, I'd almost want to file bankruptcy before they gave me the forgiveness so that I could get out from underneath it before I get an IRS obligation.
That's right. That is another option.
So the forgiveness is not available to me. They don't like my insolvency. What else can you do for me? Come on, there's got to be something else you can do, Lauren.
That's right. There is something else. A lot of taxpayers do choose to go through bankruptcy. It is a very useful vehicle for many taxpayers. It's essentially wiping your slate clean, which...
But if I owe the taxes for last year, I can't file for bankruptcy. I need to be at least 4 years old, right? So, like, for instance, if I filed my taxes this year on time, I'd have to wait 4 years into the future to be able to wipe them out in bankruptcy. Isn't that about right? Mm-hmm. And then, if, of course, they come back and bite me, excuse the expression, they come back and they audit me and tell me I owe more money. Sorry, I apologize, that came out wrong. They will what? They will have to say, like 2 years from now, they decide, hey, that's not, I'd still have to wait another 2 years after they reassess me more taxes, even though it's a 4-year-old tax. Mm-hmm. If, say, in the third year they reassessed me and said, oh, you owe us more taxes, I'd have to wait another 2 years beyond that to be able to get it rid of in bankruptcy. So bankruptcy is not an option, insolvency is not an option, and the Congress people don't want to get reelected, so they don't extend the statute. What are we going to be doing?
Well, if none of those options are available to you as a taxpayer, there is an option where you work with the IRS. It's called an offer and compromise. Right. And this option is it basically allows the taxpayer to work with the IRS. Now, a lot of people see the IRS as a big bad guy that's out to get you, but there are times that it does pay to work with the IRS.
IRS are the nicest people in the world. We'll come right back.
Are you losing sleep at night due to your debt situation? Call attorney Joseph Brien today to sit down for a free consultation to discuss your rights. The People's Advocate is the trade name of the Brien Law Group. The People's Advocate provides services to individuals and small businesses in bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sales, loan modifications, debt relief, consumer law, and estate planning in the South Florida area. Your initial consultation is free of charge. Proudly serving the South Florida community for over 21 years, Attorney Joseph Brien will listen to your concerns and discuss options available to you. For more information, please call the People's Advocate at 888-828-9008. That's 888-828-9008. You are listening to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida attorney Joseph Brien. He keeps you informed about your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure and wants you to be part of his show. Call 888-565-1470 and help him help you get informed. Now, back to our show.
Howdy, and welcome back to the People's Advocate Hour. This is attorney Joseph Brien, Joe the lawyer, and I'm sitting here with, oops, I hope that's not happening in the cars, and you're sitting here with Lawrence Malis, a tax attorney. That shouldn't scare you. And we were just talking about offers in compromise, what to do if none of the other benefits that exist out there you want. What we're going to do about that. And she was talking about offers in compromise. Now, I've heard this offers in compromise before. What is this all about?
Now, an offer in compromise essentially allows you to settle your tax debt for less than you owe.
Right.
Which can be extremely beneficial for taxpayers.
Give me an example. Say I owe them $14 million. And I have nothing. I lost it all. But I owe them $14 million because at one point in time I was a great successful person and I did all these like-kind exchanges. You ever heard of the like-kind exchanges, 1031s?
I have, 1031s.
We do those too in our office. And, you know, all of a sudden you've lost this property, but you have all that hidden tax exposure. And I went and I bought property and I flipped property and oh my gosh, I went from like $800,000 in equity and now I'm sitting on $24 million. But I'm holding on with dear life, and I don't sell off and liquidate what I should have liquidated, and now I'm holding all this property that's now only worth about $12 million, and I lose it all, but I have all this hidden income under my like-kind exchanges, and now I owe my favorite people, the IRS.
Oh, all of our favorite people.
Actually, it's not my favorite people, but I do think that they're people too, and they should be loved and honored and feared, because they have the ability to do all sorts of things. They're a very powerful organization, so you got to be careful, and you got to do what's right because they will come back and knock on your door. What do you do?
Well, if you can't pay your full tax, or if paying the tax creates a financial hardship, the IRS will look at what you submit, what your tax attorney submits as the facts and circumstances of your situation, and they'll say, does this taxpayer have the ability to pay? Does this taxpayer have a certain amount of income that will enable them to pay this tax liability that they owe? What are their expenses?
Now, would they likely accept like $50 for a $14 million obligation, or are they gonna wait and see?
Well, I would say $50 probably would not be a reasonable settlement offer. But you know, like I said, it depends on the facts and the circumstances, which is what lawyers do. We take the facts and circumstances and we work through it, and we work through your situation, because everyone is unique. Everyone has a unique story.
But if you have nothing to offer, you're pretty much going to keep on having them look at you until they can see that they can get something, or I guess after a few years or a lot of years, like 5 or 6 years, they might actually forgive you.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
It's a possibility.
And when you do an offer in compromise, you're offering them basically all your disposable income, all your disposable assets. What are you going to offer them?
You're going to offer them what you can reasonably expect to pay based on your income and based on your expenses. You're going to tell the IRS, this is what I make. You know, maybe I had $24 million of assets laying around at this time. Now they're worth 12. Now they're sold. If I only have X amount of income and I have high expenses, and you can show the IRS, this is what I can pay you right now. The IRS just wants to get paid.
But if they don't like your offer, they'll just say they'll take a payment, won't they?
They will. They will take a payment plan. The IRS will definitely work with taxpayers to work on a payment plan, and that's definitely a great option for a lot of individuals and small businesses.
Before we transgress to another subject, what are some of the things that the IRS has done that you've heard about that they will do if you don't contact them? You know, if you're not proactive, go to an attorney, or at least contact them yourself, which I think is a bad idea. You really should have a buffer between you and the IRS so that you don't get so frightened. You have somebody that can speak with them and then advise you so that you don't get totally terrorized by what they say to you on the phone. What are some of the things that they can do if you don't behave, and if you don't reach out to them when they come knocking on their door or sending you a letter? I know a lot of people who get a letter in the mail and they'll ignore it. what can happen if they ignore it?
That's right. It can get pretty scary. So
What happens? What can they do to you?
They can take your home. They can take...
My homestead, the one that's protected from everybody else?
That's correct. They can garnish your wages. They can actually go into your bank account every month and take that paycheck that you work so hard for.
Wait, they don't have to file a lawsuit, give me any notification or anything?
They sure don't.
What else?
They can take your car. They can come after basically all of your assets.
They can go in my bank account and take it without asking me first?
Yes, they can. Yes, they can.
So you don't want to ignore them?
No. What I always tell taxpayers, especially when they come in, as soon as they've gotten their first notification from the IRS, work with the IRS. Make sure that you have an educated and someone that, a tax attorney, tax practitioner that knows how to work with the IRS, that knows their rules and regulations, that understands the game, and that will advocate on behalf of you and work with you through the IRS, that will respond. Because the worst thing you can do is get that letter in the mail from the IRS and ignore it. That's the absolute worst thing that you can do, because they will come after you. They will do anything they can to get your attention, because they want to make sure that you're being responsive, that you're working with them, that they're going to get something out of you. If you just ignore them, it's going to be much, much worse.
So don't ignore them. Don't stick your head in the sand like an ostrich?
No, that is the worst thing you could do. Call your tax attorney, call your tax practitioner.
So you're telling me if I go ahead and change my name to John Smithereens, and they're going to find me. So I just better respond.
They will find you. They have offices all over the country. They will find you out of the country. The best thing you can do is
get an advocate.
Get an advocate, maybe the people's advocate.
But get somebody who knows what they're doing.
Somebody who knows what they're doing, who knows how to work with the IRS, and who can help you through the situation.
Now, if somebody wants to talk to you right now, they can call us at 888-565-1470, or they can look at us on stream and send us Twitter or Facebook comments, and we'll respond to them. You can contact WWNN1470.com. You can go to our webpage, thepeoplesadvocate.com. Or you can give us a call if you want to come in for a free consultation at 954-320-6940. And I think this is going to be an exciting day for people that have been sitting there worrying about these things and not dealing with them, realizing that they're much better off dealing with an attorney, getting it handled, getting somebody else to talk to them, advising them on what they can and cannot do. The truth of the matter is that we don't have debtor's prison. So they're not going to lock you up and throw you in jail unless you file false tax returns, and that's another conversation. But generally speaking, that as long as you reach out to them before they reach out and touch you in the form of taking your car, taking your house, taking your bank accounts, taking your wages, you need to deal with them up front and get yourself an advocate, possibly the people's advocate, but it doesn't have to be. Somebody who's competent, intelligent, who's got experience and understands what the IRS is looking for can help you. If you want to talk to us and set us up with an appointment, you can call us at 954-320-6940. But once again, taxes don't need to be scary. Knowledge is power. Don't be foolish. Get the knowledge that will help you relieve the stress, because the first thing that helps you in any situation is getting informed. And you know, when you're sitting down with somebody and you're talking and you're going through the consultation and you're looking over their problems that they've come to see you with, when they're finished with their consultation with you, and I'm sure you've seen it with other attorneys, do you notice a sense of relief?
I do, Joe. I really do. I notice the people just realizing that at least they now understand what's going on. They can breathe a little easier. They can go home that night, have dinner with their family, and know that they've done something about the situation, and that there is hope. There is a light at the end of the tunnel. There are options.
That's right. But, you know, once again, without knowledge, there's a lot of fear. And there's a lot of things that we don't know, and the IRS is among the many organizations in America that frighten us. I'm hoping that we won't have too many drones flying overboard, because I'm just worried that they might strike the wrong house, and I might be in it. So no drones yet, but definitely we have to be careful and get some help when we need it. So anyways, this is the People Advocate Hour. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. We're here to answer your questions. If you don't want to call in, you're welcome to send us a text or a tweet or a Facebook question at WWN1470.com. In addition, you can give us a call and set us up an appointment at 954-320-6940. We're open Monday through Friday, 9 to 5. We do weekend meets, and we do evening meets only on special request. We're not generally open in the evening, but we do make special arrangements for those clients that cannot get away from work during the work days. Now, I think it's a good time for us to discuss something else. So, you have any questions today?
So, what is a short sale, Joe? I know you mentioned it earlier when you were talking about foreclosures, and you recommended it as one of the best options. What is it?
Well, a short sale is happening because you owe more money than the property is worth. You may have a first loan or a second loan, a first loan and a HELOC, home equity line of credit, and the property is substantially worth less than you owe. And you're trying to move ahead in life and you want to get out from underneath this debt. Sometimes it's your home, sometimes it's an investment property, sometimes it's an apartment building or an office. But the banks are motivated, especially with homesteads and residential properties, to mitigate their losses and allow you to sell the property for more or less what they expect to get at an auction. Now, basically what you're doing is that you are selling the property on the open market. It has to be an arm's length transaction. You can't sell it to Uncle Sam. Not Uncle Sam as in the United States, but Uncle Sam, your Uncle Sam. You have to sell it to somebody where there's no relationship and there's no promises, and it's an arm's length transaction. If you get somebody to buy the property for you with the understanding that they're going to either lease it back to you or with the understanding that they're going to sell it back to you, well, that will probably violate the terms of the short sale with the bank and actually can be prosecuted as a mortgage fraud. So it's not a good idea. It's supposed to be an arm's length transaction. And what the bank does is they look at the offer, they look at the condition of the property, they consider what they can get for that property if they were to auction it off, and they look at the value in the marketplace and they decide whether or not they're going to let you go through it, or they'll counter your offer. Say you were offering $70,000, they think the property's worth $120,000, and then it's your job to counter that offer of $120,000 or to accept it. If you don't accept it, then you can always go ahead and raise the price. Sometimes people don't want to raise the price and they'll walk away, and that's become a problem in the industry.
So what are some of the benefits of a short sale?
Well, once again, it reduces the damage to your credit. It reduces the long-term negative to your abilities in the future, because once again, you're getting rid of this debt. They're going to waive their deficiency in most cases. They're going to waive their deficiency on the short sale. I think about 95-96% of the marketplace. So not just my experience. I actually haven't had but maybe one or two in the last few years that didn't waive deficiency. And what ends up
what do you mean by waiving deficiency?
Well, they're not going to come after you for the balance due. I've had a few problems with with second mortgages wanting more money than they can get from the first mortgage, giving up a few $1,000s, up to $6,000 to pay off the second mortgage. But what happens is that the second mortgage will then make the seller sign a promissory note for a certain amount of the money that they owe on the second mortgage. It doesn't happen much, but it does happen. And it's a terrible situation when I find myself in that, because it just seems unfair and if not unnecessary, because sometimes they can't afford to make the payment that's going to be on this promissory note. But that doesn't happen very often. Most of the time, the first and the second mortgages will waive their deficiency. The second mortgage will accept what they want. And of course, it's always easier if the first mortgage and the second mortgage are the same lender. And the more conservative the second mortgage lender is, the more likely they're going to demand some sort of money from you. But if they're not so conservative, they're generally going to take $5,000 or $6,000 towards the balance that's on the second mortgage, and walk away from the debt and forgive the debt as well on the second mortgage. Sometimes you just have one loan, and they waive the deficiency on the difference between what you sell the property for and what you owe them. And generally there's a waiver of liability, waiver of deficiency. It doesn't stop them from issuing a 1099 forgiveness of debt. But once again, not every bank sends them out. I've had several clients who never received the forgiveness of debt. So Anyways, one of the things that you want to do is you want to give us a call and let us talk to you about these different things. We can talk to you about the benefits of short sales. Give us a call at 888-565-1470. We can be located at www.1470.com. And this is the People Advocate Hour.
Are you losing sleep at night due to your debt situation? Call attorney Joseph Brien today to sit down for a free consultation to discuss your rights. The People's Advocate is the trade name of the Brien Law Group. The People's Advocate provides services to individuals and small businesses in bankruptcy, foreclosure, short sales, loan modifications, debt relief, consumer law, and estate planning in the South Florida area. Your initial consultation is free of charge. Proudly serving the South Florida community for over 21 years, Attorney Joseph Brien will listen to your concerns and discuss options available to you. For more information, please call the People's Advocate at 888-828-9008. That's 888-828-9008. You are listening to the People's Advocate Hour with South Florida Attorney Joseph Brien. He keeps you informed about your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure and wants you to be part of his show. Call 888-565-1470 and help him help you get informed. Now, back to our show.
Well, thank you for listening, and this is the People's Advocate Hour. And you're speaking with Joseph Brien. If you want to give us a call, 888-565-1470. We're here to take your calls and answer your questions. And I'm sitting here with an excellent tax attorney who works with me. And I think that she can help you out if you have any questions. She's able to give you some pointers. And it's kind of anonymous unless your mother's listening to you and she recognizes your voice. Once again, you also can call us and set an appointment at our office. Our consultations are free, 954-320-6940. Our offices are conveniently located off of I-95 and Hollywood Boulevard, and we do have satellite offices where we can set up appointments to meet with you. And given certain circumstances, we also do sometimes go meet some of our corporate clients in their offices because they're not able to get out. We're a very flexible firm. We're here to help. We are the People's Advocate.
So Joe, we've talked about foreclosure debt. I have a friend who actually has about $10,000 plus in credit card debt. What could you recommend for her?
Well, if she doesn't want to go for bankruptcy, because $10,000 just doesn't seem like you should file for bankruptcy. It just seems too small. It doesn't seem like don't misunderstand me. If you're a minimum wage person, $10,000 is a lot of money. However, I'm going to want to concern myself before I file a bankruptcy that it would have to be, first of all, that you're in a good health, because I'm worried about you losing out the opportunity to use bankruptcy to get rid of some health care debt. And I'm going to want to look at what's going on in your life and what your near future is before I suggest $10,000 to file. Now, often people that are in $10,000 worth of debt, they have 5 or 6 or 7 credit cards. You can always offer each one of them different forms of offers of compromise, just like we do with the IRS. You can sometimes make payments towards principal only and have them waive interest. It's called a forbearance. And they often do that for up to a year where they won't charge any interest or any fees. And it's a wonderful thing. And I just understand we have a call-in for you, or me. I don't know who for. It's Alice in Fort Lauderdale. Alice, how you doing?
Hi, I'm doing good. How are you guys?
Great. Good to hear your voice.
Thank you. I was listening about your short sale section there a few moments ago, and I had a question about that with the second loan or the HELOC that you mentioned.
Yes.
You said typically that they'll accept a settlement of $5,000 or maybe $6,000 to release the lien. What happens though if they want more than that? Is that something that the first, how does that work out? Is that
well, first what you do is, first you go back to the first and see if they'll give them more money. And second, because you're in a short sale, it depends on what the bank wants. Are they looking for another $4,000 or $5,000, or are they looking for the full $80,000 in the HELOC? If they're only looking for a little bit more money, often the short sale buyer will make up the difference. They'll think of it as an additional purchase price. So they'll come up with the $4,000 or $5,000, and depending on the nature of the property and how much the buyer wants it, they may pay all the money that the second mortgage, the HELOC, is asking for. But each situation is liquid, or it has to be negotiated. In some cases, and this is very few cases actually, I can only think of 2 cases where I had this happen. They requested promissory notes for a certain amount, not the whole balance, but $20,000 or $30,000 or $40,000. In this case, one was $28,000, and it was a $130,000 HELOC. And they wanted a promissory note on that amount of money. And I think it had a lot to do with what was going on internally within the bank, and it had to do with where their insurance would cover up to. And then and they would need to get a certain amount of money to cover the loss. They didn't want to take a loss. So they took a promissory note. In another situation, they wanted $40,000, but it was a $210,000. So they generally still take a lot less than the balance on the HELOC.
Okay.
What is your concern, Alice? Have you had that happen to you?
Yeah, I was just, I'm sort of in this situation, and I'm a little concerned on how to proceed. But
you're welcome to come by. You're welcome to come by and sit down with us for a free consultation if you want to. But before, and then call us at 954-320-6940 tomorrow, and we can meet you with you really quickly and advise you and take a more personal interest into your specifics. But in a more general response to you, are you represented by an attorney or a real estate agent? They should be negotiating with the buyer and negotiating with the bank. Whoever's processing the short sale should be negotiating, because you're not going to get what you deserve. You're going to get what you negotiate. And it may be that they look at you and think you have a lot of money sitting somewhere, or an ability to pay that you don't think you have the ability to pay. And it's very factually specific.
Mm-hmm.
So, Alice,
thank you.
You're welcome. And like I said, negotiate. You should be able to work it out. And like I said, when they want more money than you have available, your only option is generally, if you can't negotiate it away, is to enter into a promissory note for the amounts that they're looking for.
Understood. Well, thank you very much, Mr. Brien. You're doing a fantastic job. I love your show.
Thank you, Alice. We look forward to being here for a long time.
Thanks. Bye-bye.
Okay.
Well, it looks like we have about 5 more minutes. So I think the one thing we really haven't talked about yet are small businesses and debt options for them. I know I work with a lot of small businesses, working with their tax planning and things like that.
I find that commercial banks act differently than residential banks. When you're dealing with a commercial lender who is lending to the business community, they seem to all of a sudden have a much more realistic approach to the debt, and they want to go through the process evaluating the business to see its ability to pay, what its prognosis is in the future. Is it going to fall on its face in 6 months, or if we give it some debt relief and we work with them, will they be around long enough to pay the debt? The banks are looking for the bottom line and how can they benefit from working with you, the business person. So they'll do a workout. In some cases, that means that they'll end up giving you forbearance on interest. In some cases, they'll give you a different payment. Sometimes they'll reduce your interest. I've seen several situations where banks had these 12% or 14% interest rates, and they dropped them all the way down to 4%, just to make it so that the person could manage their debt. Mm-hmm. And it just comes down to, once again, good negotiations, because if you don't negotiate, you get what they give you. And if you negotiate, you get what you want in life. Because as in life, as in anything you do in business, you don't get what you deserve, you get what you negotiate. And that's why you need an advocate before the IRS, and that's why you need an advocate before you when you're trying to work with a bank. Sometimes I've had clients who jumped right in front of me after I got the door open and went ahead and started negotiating their own relief because they felt that they were business savvy, but they just couldn't get in the door without me opening it.
And I think that would come highly unrecommended, wouldn't you say?
I do, but sometimes you got to use an advocate to get you the playing field. But in most cases, the attorneys are going to be the ones, or your business advisors are going to be the ones that are going to help you work out the loans, work out your debt. You know, a lot of businesses out there are dealing with SBAs, and they got a personal guarantee on them. And the SBAs, they don't go away. And we'll talk about them next week when we get together. Anyways,
great.
this is the People's Advocate Hour, and my name's Attorney Joseph Brien. And if you want to call us here in our last few minutes at 888-565-1470, I'm here for you. If you want to call us at the offices and get an appointment to come in for a free consultation, it's 954-320-6940. And I'd like to recap, I guess, with a couple of stories about what's going on in the marketplace. Once again, no dual track, something that should have happened from day one. No longer can the bank foreclose on you, at the same time work with you on a modification or a loan or a short sale. Number two, banks are now restricted by that, and some judges are requiring a dismissal versus a continuance on a trial or a final judgment hearing. And once again, the Debt Relief Act that existed for people who had homesteads that they lost in foreclosure expired and is only good through April 15th of this year. And unless they extend the law, you're going to have exposure for debt forgiveness and short sale. We talked about short sales. Short sales is a great way to get out from underneath an upside down property, and it's a great method to reduce the damages to your credit and get you relief from the future. And loan modifications are now happening in a big way. I have to tell you that I'm watching more and more banks being actively trying to modify loans, actively cooperating in short sales. And 4 or 5 years ago, it was a joke. It was a real joke. It wasn't funny.
A shame.
No, it's unfortunate that they weren't motivated earlier on. It could have caused a lot less pain in our society, and I think that they had a moral obligation, considering they're the ones that created the fiasco that we're dealing with. Once again, thank you very much, and we'll see you again on the People's Advocate Hour.
You have been listening to the People's Advocate Hour with Attorney Joseph Brien. Join Attorney Joseph Brien next week on the People's Advocate, as you need to know your rights when it comes to bankruptcy or foreclosure. You can also contact our office at 954-889-7443 for a free consultation. The opinions expressed on the preceding sponsored program were strictly those of its hosts, guests, and callers, and not necessarily those of this station, its staff, management, or sponsors.